Move over Spirit of Aloha and the Hawaii Supreme Court trumping the Constitution and the Second Amendment because New York and a judge there has just said the quiet part out loud, canceling the Second Amendment and acknowledging the fact that New York doesn't care about the Constitution, or at least the Second Amendment. And you're going to see that enacted when we talk about Mr. Dexter Taylor's case. Let's get into it. All right, so you're gonna wanna stick through this because there's gonna be some crazy stuff happening in New York. Let's start with the story though. So a Brooklyn man named Mr. Dexter Taylor, he's 52 years old, he's a New York native, and I'm so sorry to hear that. He's also a software engineer and has a clean record, has now been convicted of 13 weapons charges after having been arrested and charged in 2022 for building his own firearms. Now, several years before all this being 2024 and the convictions, Mr. Taylor discovered the enjoyment in gunsmithing and started legally making purchases, again, legally making purchases, to pursue it initially as a hobby and maybe someday as a business. Quote, ever since I was a kid, I was really like most red-blooded American kids. I was interested in guns and tanks and fighter planes because it was cool. End quote. Describing his new hobby, Mr. Taylor commented, quote, I found out that you can actually legally buy a receiver and you can machine that receiver to completion and you can buy your parts and you can put them together and you've got a pistol or a rifle. And once I saw that, I was hooked. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. This is the most cool thing you could possibly do in your machine shop, end quote. Then one day, while quietly at home in his own book, enjoying an audiobook, the joint ATF SWAT force raid came. Quote, I'd go into bed listening to an audiobook, woke up, and I heard voices that were not the audiobook. Then I heard a bang, and then I heard that sound. I saw weapons lights flickering under the door of my bedroom. First thing I did was I said, hello? I thought they had the wrong house, because it never occurred to me that someone quietly sitting at home manufacturing rifles or pistols or whatever would be a problem, end quote. Yeah, welcome to the Empire State. After a week spent on Rikers Island in custody, Mr. Taylor faced a 37-count indictment with all the usual scary sounding talking points. It sounds like there may have even been a press conference where the prosecutor who charged him talked about ghost guns and so forth. Quote, he ended up building, I believe it was 8 pistols and 5 or 6 rifles, AR-style rifles, and then 8 or 9 Glock pistols, end quote. Wow, sounds like he's ready to take on the world, right? Okay, now pay attention. The dates here are important. Normally I gloss over them, but here you're gonna see why this is crucial. So this happened in about April of 2022. April of 2022. Why is that important? Because as of April 2022, you needed to acquire a May issue permit from New York in order to obtain certain gun rights. Failure to do so is no doubt part of the reason why the state was seeking to put him in prison for 18 years on this 37-count indictment. All right, here's a quiz for you. What happened about 2 months later in June of 2022? I'll give you a short moment to think. All right, New York State Rifle Pistol Association versus Brune decision came out from the United States Supreme Court, striking down New York's Sullivan 1911 May issue law. This is part of the picture because according to Mr. Taylor's attorney, his chances of obtaining a permit were about 4% following an 8-month wait. And again, this is not the totality of everything that's going on here, okay? Because there's other New York laws at play. But Mr. Taylor's attorney went on to describe that judges in New York often use the lack of an application for the permit as a complete forfeiture of any Second Amendment challenge to these laws in court. That's how this all ties together. You don't apply for the permit that you've got a 4% chance of getting, and hey, out of luck, no Second Amendment rights for you. Mr. Taylor's attorney described that during the trial, it got even better. The prosecution, according to Mr. Taylor's attorney, had attempted to portray Mr. Taylor as a highly dangerous person who was building these highly dangerous weapons in his basement. It was therefore no wonder that the prosecution objected to the judge about even allowing Mr. Taylor's family inside the courtroom as a show of support for the defendant. Nor did the prosecution allow his upstairs neighbor, who knew Mr. Taylor's hobby, to testify on his behalf. Now guys, be sure to stick with me to the end because this video has got a couple points, and really I think the most interesting one for me, I buried at the end. I know it's bad YouTubing, but there it is. That's what I did. Of course, if you've made it this far, let me know that you got something out of this video. Don't forget to join the comments in the comment field below discussion. That's always interesting. And of course, hit that like button. Now back to the video. Jeff Charles of redstate.com, article linked in the description box below, reported that the jury found Taylor guilty of second-degree criminal possession of a loaded weapon, 4 counts of third-degree criminal possession of a weapon, 5 counts of criminal possession of a firearm, second-degree criminal possession of 5 or more weapons, unlawful possession of a pistol ammunition, violation of certificate of registration, prohibition on unfinished frames or receivers. Wow, that's a lot. Most of those I've never even heard of before as a Wisconsin attorney. Now, 2 lesser charges, including third-degree criminal possession of 3 or more firearms and third-degree possession of a firearm, were not voted on, according to the article. Here's the kicker. During the opening arguments, the judge was interrupting the defense attorney from laying out the groundwork for what sounds like a jury nullification defense. That's something that I know a lot of you guys enjoy talking about, enjoy hearing about. If you want to know more about jury nullification, let me know in the comment field below. I can try to put together a video on it. I did a bunch of research on a video and then it just kind of got pushed to the side for other things. If you want me to front burner that, let me know. The judge reportedly said, quote, "Do not bring the Second Amendment into this courtroom. It doesn't exist here. So you can't argue Second Amendment. This is New York," end quote. It doesn't exist here. This is New York. I'm not sure which is worse, the spirit of aloha superseding the Constitution, as we saw in Hawaii when the Hawaii Supreme Court recently struck down the Second Amendment in another video, or a New York judge saying the quiet part out loud, that the Second Amendment doesn't exist. Now, I did the Googling for you because I was curious. I checked the oath that all New York attorneys and also judges, therefore, must take when they're sworn into the New York bar. It at least presently reads, quote, "I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of being an attorney according to the best of my ability," end quote. Now, last I checked, and I did verify before recording this video, so you don't have to Google it. I checked it out. The Second Amendment is still very much part of the Constitution. Now, either this judge doesn't believe me when I say that and is incapable of doing their own research, or her apparent ability level or her views of her duties leave a little bit to be desired here. I want to close on this thought. And I do not have the answer to this question, so it's rhetorical, but we've covered this sort of stuff before. How did they know that he was purchasing these gun parts online using his credit card? I don't know the answer to that. If someone knows, post it up in the comment field below. Does this possibly have something to do with all the data harvesting from credit card companies, from retail coding transactions? Does this have something to do with maybe some sort of spying on distributors, retailers, going through shipping like USPS? Is this some sort of neighbor or friend? Like, where did this come up? I'm really curious to know. So if there's anyone in connection with this case who can talk about it, please feel free to reach out to the channel. If you just know something about it, post up in the comment field below. Please do me a favor and put the citation or attribution for that. But that's the story within the story to me. Not only is, of course, New York trying to win the race to the bottom with Hawaii as well as Illinois and some other states to see who can shred the Constitution the fastest and the most creatively, with style points in our case here for the judge's comment. But how did this all happen? How did this unfold? If you made it this far in the video, congratulations. We're going to be getting into our quote of the day in the moment. It's a little bit different today. Of course, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you just caught us while browsing through. I look forward to joining you in the comment field below. My comment field ask for you for today for the discussion is, do you think cases like this will be spreading into other states? And do you think the so-called red wall, where presumably states that are going to be more pro-Second Amendment, at least historically have been more pro-Second Amendment, do you think that we're going to start to see prosecutions like this arising from maybe anti-Second Amendment counties and enclaves within those red states? I'm curious. How far do you think this will creep? Or is this a flash in a pan that's going to disappear? A quote of the day comes from John Wayne. I was just watching one of his movies last night, so he was on my mind. Quote, "Tomorrow hopes that we have learned something from yesterday," end quote. Seemed like a good one. And I'll be seeing you tonight on my screen, John Wayne. And we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you enjoyed this one, please feel free to check out some of our other great content, and we'll see you in the next one.